Greetings, fellow Helldivers. How are you all doing this fine evening? I have a confession. I don't like the balance philosophy of this game. I love the shit out of this game, but God, the fact that it feels like I'm using frickin' marshmallows to fight a bunch of bugs and terminators with, sorry, automatons, the fact that I have to use a bunch of fucking pea shooters and it feels like that I'm completely underpowered on the field and that these weapons are subpar, that just does not contribute to a fun power fantasy, which I think is a really important part of a game. Maybe I'm in the minority on this situation, but I feel that the fun factor should trump any sort of should be more important than the balance or difficulty of the game. If you have a well-balanced game, but the weapons are either boring to use or feel underpowered to use, but it's balanced, I feel that you failed as a game designer. The weapons should be fun, and should be fun to use, just full stop. And a lot of the times that someone says that a weapon is fun to use, what happens? They nerf the weapon. No, they don't. They don't try to up the number of enemies you get to kill the enemy. They don't up the number of enemies for you to kill with that weapon to compensate for the fact that the weapon's overpowered. No, they just nerf the weapon. And then in doing so, they also make it feel like shit to use half the time. I don't like that. So I went ahead and just went into the game and just really cracked down and asked myself, what do I think each of these weapons need to actually be fun to use and for me to consider using? So let's just get right into it, and just know that I do love the game. I love the shit out of this game, but I feel that I need to get this off my chest because I feel that a lot of the design choices that they've made are seriously holding us back. So without further ado, this is gonna be part one of a larger series where I go into everything, but for now, so I'm gonna start out with the stratagems, work my way down. And as I get started here, I do want to make it clear that the game is challenging in its current state, and the weapons are in their current state, balanced, but as someone who has studied game design and tried to understand the underlying definitions and prerequisites for fun as opposed to engagement, I feel personally there's a lot of work that could be done. So I'm just going to get right into it, go down the list, and tell you basically what I would feel needs to need to happen in order for all these weapons to feel like they're fun to use. Because currently a lot of the weapons are they feel underpowered in a lot of cases, and a lot of weapons are just disqualified from my loadout, or I only select them for very niche things. And I want to change that. I want to hold to the no meta thing, to their whole no meta philosophy in a way. There's some caveats to that, but maybe I'll save that for a different video because that's a whole different talk on its own. But anyway, getting just right into it. Machine gun, make it expendable off the bat. That's just the best thing I think that could be done for this gun. Lower the amount of magazines that you can have. I really think that that's all it needs, and because it's already a pretty decent gun. Like it works really well with the terminators. It's not really my cup of tea for the automatons, but in the situations that I don't pick it, it would be very helpful and very advantageous, and if it was expendable, because then it would give me a reason to pick it over, say, the heavy machine gun for later automaton difficulties, and also it would give it an advantage over the stalwart if I was running, say, an expendable anti-tank as a sort of secondary support weapon. So yeah, just as long as it was expendable and could be deployed every, say, minute or two, I would honestly start to use it more. Moving on. Anti-material rifle, this needs to do more damage. It only has 10 rounds. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure it's 10 rounds. And the number, in any case, the number of kills that you can get with one magazine before needing to do a kind of long reload is just completely outclassed by the heavy machine gun. So if it were up to me, I would make it so the anti-material rifle could kill basically I would make it a Ruptor, but also with anti-tank capabilities, and having it only being able to kill, say, a factory strider with a single magazine, but mag dumping into the whole thing. Because currently you can mag dump into a factory strider all over, and it's not going to do anything. But the anti-material rifle, I think you should be able to just mag dump anywhere on the factory strider, and as long as you get all 10 of those shots on, then maybe 2 magazines. But in any case, for what it is currently, which is just a heavy armor penetrating semi-automatic weapon with a very shallow magazine pool, or magazine size rather, it's just, there's no reason for me to pick it over the heavy machine gun currently. Or if I need to do anti-tank, then I'm either going to go with the recoilless rifle or the EAT. So, yeah, moving on. Stalwart, to be completely honest, I wouldn't change anything about this. It's kind of good where it's at. It's the funnest weapon. I will forego a higher difficulty a lot of times to play on a lower difficulty just so I could use this gun. This gun, mwah, chef's kiss. I will glaze the fuck out of this gun. My only complaint is that it only really is helpful on earlier levels. So the only thing I could really suggest is more magazines maybe, but no. Honestly, it's fine where it's at, and my only complaint is that the opportunity cost for a stratagem is very high. So I would never ever take this on a higher difficulty. So my request associated to this gun is to up the spawn rate of support weapons in general, and the locations in which you can find them. It would be very fun to go on to what I'm coining as a Scavdiver run, where you don't bring any support weapons, you just land, and then within the first couple minutes you hit a point of interest that even one that's less than a minor point of interest, but it'll have a gun there. It could be a group of dead Helldivers, or a supply pod that's sending out sparks and kind of malfunctioning because it's been sitting there for so long. There's just so many different ways that you can expand how many support weapons there are, because currently, as is, if I'm being completely honest, support weapons as a stratagem is a very extremely high opportunity cost. And if there was a way to be able to negate that, I might not even want to take support weapons. And if I really wanted to, especially on the higher levels, then I at least would still have the option. I'm just saying that options are good, and in this game, being able to pick whatever you want is going to be more important than anything. with plenty of design caveats to that. But you want to be able to give the player options and an opportunity to undo any sort of damage that they may have done if they, say, went in with a poorly selected loadout. If you go in and you can't find a support weapon and your loadout it just is not working, you're pretty cooked for the rest of the game. You're useless. There's nothing you can do. So being able to negate that death spiral would be very much encouraged if I was designing this game personally. EAT. The only thing that I request for this one is that if you have a support weapon and you try to pick up an EAT, you put that support weapon on your back so that way you don't just drop it on the ground, and then you pick up the EAT, you fire it, you drop it, and then you bring your original support weapon back out. And if you try to swap weapons while you have your support weapon on your back and an EAT in your hand, you just drop the EAT. And if you want, you could run 2 EATs, so that way you could utilize both of them, because they drop you with 2. The only complaint that I really have, it will make a lot more sense later on, when I start talking about the orbital stratagems. I think that the EAT should have a faster cooldown, because just for a lot of reasons, just so that way it will remain competitive with the buffs that I'm going to give orbital cannons, because currently these are a mess, in my opinion. But yeah, just trust me on it, lower the call-in delay, the cooldown delay. Recoilless rifle, one of those weapons that is also in a really good spot. My only request is that you just combine EAT, or excuse me, not EAT, heat, high explosive anti-tank, and the explosive just into the same shot. This thing takes up a backpack, and without the backpack, it is effectively no different from an expendable anti-tank. However, I think that it should just be, even on its own, found, say, for example, in the wild, it should be a slight step up, even without the backpack, to an EAT. And in that sort of philosophy, I think that the round should be both explosive and anti-tank at the same time, not requiring you to hold down the reload key to change its firing configuration. That's just, it's a good concept, and I think that there is room for a weapon like that, but the recoilless rifle is not the place for that. Moving on. Flamethrower. In its current state, it fucking sucks. I am trying my best to find a loadout that works with it. I'm combining it with jetpacks and the freaking fire, the 75% fire resistance. And that's the only time that that I can really justify using it. In any other situation, it's more of a liability than it's a liability, and it's not good compared to the other weapons. So I would up the range significantly, and honestly, yeah, just upping the range significantly. In real life, these things go far. It makes this one look like a slingshot in terms of range. Like, not even a shotgun. Like, the range is just the big factor here that is limiting it, because you're also very close to the fire when you have ranges like these. You have to basically torch the ground in front of you, and if you try to move forward with anything but the 75% fire resistance armor, you're going to be taking a lot of damage. So, anyway, moving on. Autocannon. Honestly, only complaint is that there's no option for it to be reloaded in any capacity without the backpack. I would say you can carry an extra magazine, and when you find it in the world, you would be able to resupply it for an extra magazine, and instead the backpack would feed each magazine individually into your reserve, which would then be fed into the gun when you reload. I think that that is the only thing that this gun really needs, because it should be in a lot of ways like the anti-material rifle, but explosive? Wait, didn't I say that I wanted this one to be like the eruptor? Sorry, I think I got the weapons mixed up here. I want shit, where did it go? The autocannon should be like the eruptor one. And the anti-material rifle just is the one that you can mag dump on its own. And, I mean, yeah, it could be a little explosive. Yeah, sure, why not? It can be a little explosive, but this is the big one. This is the one that you can do, like look at how big those explosions are, right? Like, that, it should be an absolute powerhouse of a weapon. It just feels right for this to be sort of a, absolute monster of a weapon. Bitches love cannons. Anyway, once again, I'm trying to follow the fun here. We can worry about the balance when we have a fun game, because the fun game is why people come to your game in the first place. Once you have the fun, then you worry about how you can make it challenging. But you cannot violate the fun with the challenge. If you violate the fun with the challenge, your game is you're going to upset your players. Moving on. Heavy machine gun, to be completely honest, it's kind of good where it's at right now. The only thing that I would say is, nah, I mean, there's not really, it's the safest weapon. Maybe I would have it so that way the recoil is lowered. I think that's the only thing I'd really do. Because currently you kind of have to use it like a battle rifle, which we should have a weapon like that, but it should be some sort of primary weapon, because, that, I don't know, that just makes more sense in my head. But, so basically, the heavy machine gun as is should be a primary with a lower magazine, and then this machine gun here should be, the support weapon with lower recoil. Airburst rocket launcher. Once again, one of those weapons that is honestly, it's in a pretty good spot. It's one of those weapons that's a massive liability, but what it does really well, which is just clearing out an entire area of people. It's like having a cluster strike. It's like having a backpack cluster strike, and that's very cool. Commando. I would make this have the same timer as the EAT. In a lot of ways, this weapon is, I wouldn't say inferior, but there's a lot of ways that this weapon is just really similar, but it does the same thing but in a different way, if that makes sense. And when you compare it to the EAT, the things that the Commando offers, like being able to track and lead your shots with the laser, it just doesn't make up for the fact that it does less damage per shot, and it's essentially like having two EATs. Well, maybe more like 1.5 EATs in one gun. Like, that's cool and all, but that isn't, 1.5 EATs is less than 2 EATs, especially when it has a low timer. You know what I mean? There's just lower the timer. That's really the only thing. If they had the exact same timer cooldown time, it's like it takes a whole extra like 45 fucking seconds. That's crazy for less total firepower. There's just no way to go around that. In fact, I would even say that it should take less time because it doesn't do because it should just be the same time. And I think then it would make me consider it just as much as I do the EAT. And it should be up to personal preference at that point, which I think should be the biggest factor when it comes to deciding what kind of weapons you're going to bring. All the weapons should be in some way viable, and of course doing some things better than others. But the weapon, you should be able to grab any set of weapons and do pretty okay. Otherwise, that's a pretty clear indicator that something went wrong. Railgun needs to outclass the autocannon and the anti-material rifle. Like, it needs to be basically one shot from here needs to be like shooting 2 recoilless rifle shots. That's the only way that this is going to see any sort of popularity, because it has so many more downsides compared to an anti-material rifle or the recoil, or even the recoilless, the autocannon. The autocannon and the anti-material rifle can be fired multiple times and thus have a higher damage output, simply because the shots currently aren't that much more powerful, and you at the same time need to reload after every shot, even with the overcharge, which I don't think you should be needing to use the overcharge in order to have a viable weapon. Because currently, as it is, when it's in safe mode, it really is just absolutely inferior to the autocannon or the anti-material rifle. And so the overcharge, given the fact that it can literally blow you up, should be giving you extra. So, moving on. The spear. It's a very niche and situational weapon. Well, I don't know about niche. I just don't see it used that often. I personally don't really have that much experience with using it. But as long as it's able to just absolutely demolish any kind of vehicle, because that's really the only thing that it's good for, is destroying vehicles. It should just be able to destroy any vehicle you throw at it. Maybe, say, a factory strider or a war strider or whatever. No, sorry, specifically factory strider. This factory strider should be able to be taken out in, say, a full mag dump, including the backpack or something to that effect. If it can do that already, then I think it's fine. If it can't, then it should. Wasp launcher. This is almost like another variation of the airburst rocket launcher in the respect that it just shoots out a bunch of explosions. And honestly, it's like the difference between the rockets for the Eagle and the cluster strike for the Eagle, sort of. This is, as you can see here, it's even doing damage to the Hulk. I always forget that fucker's name. It's doing damage to the Hulk, which I think is a really good thing. It's like kind of like a medium point between the airburst rocket launcher and the spear. So as long as it's able to do significant damage to anything short of a factory strider, I think it's in a good spot. Orbital cannons. We are now getting to basically the section that made me, compelled me to make this video in the first place. The orbital cannons, they're just extremely mid to a very bland point. And if it were up to me, these need to be redone in a lot of ways. So, orbital Gatling barrage, the density of the shots, the fire rate needs to be practically doubled, and the number of shots doubled to compensate. So it fires for the same amount of time, but you get double the coverage. Because I've fired the orbital Gatling barrage at a group of people, at a group of enemies, or into a base, and things that were within range, it completely missed. You shouldn't be able necessarily to do that. I don't really think that it's fun when I now have to wait a whole 63 seconds, which is another problem, to fire again. Because if I'm up against a tank or something, like, what the fuck am I gonna... If it missed all of its shots, if it just happened to walk through, and I'm on a medium level, and I'm up against a tank or a Hulk, and I don't have any other weapons to deal with it, I brought this as my anti-tank weapon. Well, that kind of is a skill issue, if I'm being completely honest. See, I want you to know that I'm not trying to make this game an absolute easy snore fest. I just want the weapons to actually be viable and practical in situations that it should be. So, I don't know. Maybe if it makes you feel better, lower it to medium armor penetrating. Maybe. But to be completely honest, I think heavy armor penetrating is enough. I think the fact that it takes several shots to kill most things is enough reason to justify to up it, because in its current state, you are very unlikely to kill heavy things with a blast from this. Maybe I would lower the cooldown to 45 seconds, maybe even 30 seconds. And if we did that, then I would probably say bring it down to medium armor penetrating. But yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can do it, and any of them I would be happy with, except for the Gatling barrage having such a low hit density that an enemy can walk through the barrage and not get hit a single time. That just should not happen at all cost. Airburst Strike. Honestly, it should have the same cooldown time as the Gatling barrage. It does almost the same thing, but slightly different. It's more for crowd control. I think, if anything, it should have less time between the bursts. Like, to be completely honest, it should be like boom, 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 and then a pause, and then another boom, boom, boom. You know? That sounds absolutely unhinged. It should be clustering several blasts at once, just because it's meant for crowd control. Like, it has less penetration than the Gatling barrage, so it should be able to cover even more ground than the Gatling barrage can. Gatling barrage should be a concentrated... If it makes it easier to understand what I'm trying to go for here, the Gatling barrage should be a very concentrated stream of bullets that will destroy anything in a very small radius. The airburst should be able to go boom like that, and then this boom right here should be happening right after that, like somewhere around here or over there, and so then boom, 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 and then boom, 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 just all over. It should be able to saturate the entire area. That's the only way that I would be willing to pick it. If it saturated the area more than the Gatling barrage, on the count of the fact that it has only medium armor penetrating, and if it ran the same timer cooldown as the Gatling barrage. And don't sit there and try and make the Gatling barrage have the same cooldown time as the Airburst Strike. I don't want to be having to wait 90 seconds between two very mid orbital cannons. I would never pick them if they took more time than if the Gatling barrage took more time than it already does. And that's the main reason why I don't pick the Airburst Strike, is because of the cooldown time. Moving on. Orbital 120 millimeter high explosive barrage. This one, it's pretty good. The cooldown time is honestly the thing I would change about it. You should be this kind of emphasizes the problem I have with the orbital cannons, and that's you have to wait a really long time to use them between uses, just in general. The Gatling barrage, for what it does, takes too long. The airburst barrage, the airburst strike takes too long for what it does. The 120 millimeter barrage takes so long for what it does. It's 120 seconds, right? That is 2 minutes and 42 seconds. In 2 minutes and 30 seconds, I can get 3 airstrikes for an Eagle, and I would be able to use it 3 times before that as well. And so for the amount of saturation, area saturation that this barrage does, for the amount of time it takes, it's just not, that's one of the main reasons why I only see very low level people picking this one. It doesn't hit enough. For the amount of cooldown time it currently has to make sense, it would need to absolutely demolish the area to an insane, absurd degree. Like, to the point that it would be basically detrimental to use, or even dangerous to use. Not to the extent of, say, the airburst barrage. Maybe more toward being able to destroy anything. No, you just need to lower the cooldown time. For what this thing does currently, lower the cooldown time. Maybe make the explosions slightly. No, that's what the 380 does. Lower the cooldown time. I think that's really the only thing that would be able to save it without completely changing the identity of the weapon. 380 high explosive barrage. If I remember reading that it's just 40% bigger for 40% longer. That's a cool philosophy and all. Like, that's fine. In my opinion, I don't really think that that's interesting enough, especially because we have so many different types of explosions already. It's just all like, okay, so I have this explosion type, or I have this explosion type, or I have this explosion type, or where is it? This explosion type, or this explosion type, or this explosion type. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if you want to have something that is just this, but more powerful, it should have, say, I don't know, more variation than just be 40% more of everything that this already has. Because don't get me wrong, I know I just talked crap on them. The difference between an airstrike and a rocket pod is a pretty good one. They're very clearly meant for different applications, especially when you start to account for the cluster bomb. Don't worry, I'm going to talk some crap about the 500 kg as well as the other ones too, because to be honest, the Eagles are also kind of a mess in my opinion. Moving on. Walking barrage. It needs to be able to fire things faster, have a lower cooldown time as well. Just waiting 210 seconds, that's what? 3 minutes? That's 3 minutes and 30 seconds? That's just so long. You would never be able to rely on this one or this one. You would only be able to call them in every once in a while. It would be almost like a get out of jail free card for one time, I guess. Which for the damage that they output currently, no. Sorry, but no. Orbital laser. You have to wait almost 5 minutes for this thing, and you only get 3 uses. In my opinion, it should be one or the other. You should have multiple types of orbital lasers, to be completely honest. Just like how we have different types of explosives here. We could have different types of lasers. Ones that will take 5 minutes, but last as long as they do. And you can call them in, but you should be able to call them in whenever you want. Or you can have one that fires very quickly because you're using a bunch of heat sinks that you have on the station, and they won't fire for as long, but you could use them more often, and extremely often, in fact. And the fact that you only get, like, say, maybe, I don't know, instead of 3, maybe 5 of them, I think that would give me more incentive to pick them. The orbital laser as is a pretty good weapon. Um, yeah, just the fact that it takes 5 minutes is just more of a limiting factor than the fact that you can only use it 3 times. The fact that you can only use it 3 times just makes me never fucking pick it. That's really all it does in its current state. But yeah, the call-in time is okay. The fact that it just absolutely obliterates everything for so long is kind of cool. So 270 seconds. I would say knock it down to, I don't know, 240 seconds. Just make it a flat 4 minutes. Just just so that way it can be 4 minutes is about how long I would think that it would take a industrial orbital sized laser cannon to cool down. 4 minutes seems, it's a really long time in the heat of battle. I wouldn't hold it against them if it took 4 minutes. I mean, even 270 seconds, I don't know. It's in a pretty good spot where it's at currently, but yeah. Uh, I could take or leave any of the changes that I proposed on this one, but I really do think that since we're going to be buffing everything, this is going to need a little bit of an edge after the buffs. So, yeah, if everything, in relation to everything else, remove the 3 uses. Orbital Napalm Barrage. Same reason that I don't really use the flamethrower, and that's more of a detriment a lot of the times. But it's really good for area denial, I guess. But it's also really easy to accidentally hurt your teammates if you're trying to do a very last-minute area denial. Like, the enemies are encroaching on your position as we speak, and you throw it down. And the fact that it takes almost 7 whole fucking seconds to land, it's just, it takes so long to deploy that unless you're planning for a very far away group or swarm of enemies to walk through the fire, there's just no reason to fucking pick it, because it takes so long. Cooldown time is decent. It could be shorter, in my honest opinion. It's the same amount of time as a 380 mm high explosive barrage, but there's just, I just never pick it. I never see people pick it unless they're fucking around. There's no, it needs to be slower or faster call-in time, slightly lower cooldown time, and maybe firing along a single line, and because you see how it's kind of just cluster hitting the entire area. It's actually kind of saturating the area in the way that I would want, say, the high explosive barrage to hit. Like this one here, you see how it's only firing a few of them, and then it'll wait and then fire a few more. It should just, that should look more like this, in my opinion. How it's firing just a bunch of them all at once. 3 is just not enough for that one. And so in fact, it should actually be like 3 for this one, like boom, 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 and this one more akin to the napalm one, and then the napalm one should just be a line of fire, so that way you can use it and block off an entire advance on a front. Orbital rail cannon strike, 162 seconds. That is almost 3 minutes. 2 minutes and 42 seconds. There's, I shoot this thing, and then for the next 242 seconds, I am vulnerable. This should be able to obliterate anything. It should be worth like 5 of these. And I should be able to call it in extremely often. In my opinion, for this to be a good weapon, I should be able to call it in like every 30 seconds. And also too, I know it's not on here, but the precision strike should also be taking like, say, 30 seconds. That should be, it shouldn't, I should be able to call it in very often on the simple basis that it's only firing one shot from the Atlas cannon. That basically, that sounds like a really cool weapon. The Atlas cannon sounds like a very fun and awesome weapon, but the game is telling me to never freaking use it and that the weapon sucks. And I think that that is a shame and an affront to what the Atlas cannon can provide. Anyway, moving on to Eagles. This one I have some very controversial opinions on. I think Eagles should hit, you should have 2 Eagles that are called in. All of these should hit twice. All of the Eagle call-ins should hit the area twice in one run. So this right here, fucking when the strafing run comes along, boom, hits all those, boom, and then boom again to clear out anyone left. I would even go as far as to say that you should have dual cannons on both of them. So it's this along this line and that line going boom, 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 boom. And then 2 cannons going along this one, boom, 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 right after it. The Eagle strafing run in its current iteration, I have thrown it at hooks. I have thrown it at fabricators. And it missed. I just because I was like 10 feet off with my throw. The pilot, I don't know, I feel like the pilot should know what I'm going after. A lot of weapons should have the auto aiming capabilities as the rail cannon, just like the rail cannon does, especially when they're precision strikes, like the strafing run and the precision strike. Moving on, airstrike. It's good where it's at. Only complaint should have the the carpet bomb and then the second carpet bomb. That's it. That's the only thing I would change about that. Cluster bomb, same deal. Yeah, maybe just because it needs more, I don't know. I don't ever use this on higher levels because the opportunity cost is so high. I would say that, yeah, having 2 runs of cluster bombs would help immensely with having me bring this on higher levels, because I know that whatever I throw it at will be destroyed. Napalm airstrike, same deal. I would even go as far as to say that it should have the same number of uses as a cluster bomb, because currently I never fucking use it. Jump pack. This one, I feel you should be able to use it twice as often as you do. As a matter of fact, I think you should have a hybrid shield generator backpack that uses its current timer, because if we did have a hybrid jump pack shield generator, which sounds awesome, we should totally have that, having it double what this jump pack is would be just absolute shit. I would never fucking use that. It would be absolute garbage. We should have that option. It should be inferior to the jump pack, And this jump pack I feel is very underpowered. I never fucking use it, especially on, I know it's not really meant for automatons, it's better suited for the bugs, but that's still, even with the bugs, I feel that the fact that you can only use it every, 10 seconds, that's a huge opportunity cost for a stratagem and a backpack slot. Also, you should be able to find backpacks just almost as commonly as you should find support weapons. As I said earlier, we should have more random support weapons more often. We should also have more backpacks more often. Yeah, Eagle Smoke Strike. I feel that, to be completely honest, there's not really much that I would say the uses, you should have like, say, 5 uses, and the call-in time should be the same as the strafing run. It should be an emergency, and it needs to be more powerful when my opportunity cost is between the airstrike, the strafing run, the cluster, all the other eagles, and everything else too. Also, did I miss the orbital smoke? Wait a second, where's the orbital smoke? Is that in a different category? Yes, it is. Okay, great. No, that's the eagle. Wait. Oh, there's the orbital precision strike. Okay, I thought it just wasn't here because it was a default weapon. Alright, everything makes sense now. But yeah, Smoke Strike, when compared to everything else, the opportunity cost needs to make this choice make sense, because currently it does not. Having 2 clouds fire here, and then on one side of the stratagem marker, and then on the other side of the stratagem marker, just I should be able to have very good cloud cover from this. It should be saturating the entire area. Rocket pods. The fact that it's basically a extremely concentrated strafing run. It boom 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 boom. Have one, have another, boom 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 boom. It should have just as many shots as a strafing run. In fact, I think it should have more, because a strafing run would basically be able to do almost everything except anti-tank, and also it would have more area coverage. So this one should have just as many shots as the strafing run and the cluster bomb. That's just my opinion. I don't really run the rocket pods, because the action economy for it is subpar when compared to the damage potential of the airstrike and the saturation of the cluster bomb and the ability to hit multiple targets of the strafing run. But but it's still a very decent weapon. So yeah, more uses, I would probably be happy. Eagle 500 kg. This is probably the hottest take that I have. I don't like this weapon. You only get 2 shots, and it destroys literally fucking anything you throw it at. But then you have to wait 230 seconds for another one. I feel that it should be running on the same amount of uses as the airstrike does. Because while this one is clearing out a whole area of enemies, this one should be able to take out, one enemy very well. But it also is able to do a little bit of area denial for the area that it detonates in. And it just makes, I don't know how else to explain it other than I never pick it because I only get 2 uses, and this one does almost the same thing. And anyway, I usually, for anti-tank, will just use an EAT because I get more range. The range of this is very limited. Is limited by how much you can throw it. And the AT is limited by how much I can compensate for gravity. You know what I mean? This needs more uses for me to consider it, because currently I never consider it. Fast recon vehicle. I want more of these. More machine guns. Be able to have a stalwart version, a medium machine gun version, being able to have a laser cannon version. I also don't want this to flip so often. Also, I hate the concept of the wheels breaking. I understand it's a cool mechanic on paper, but it effectively kills the vehicle. And since we don't have tanks, I feel that the wheels should be a little more sturdy. We already have non-popping wheels. I feel that these guys should have that too, especially in the future. And this thing needs to not flip as much either. I still nonetheless use this. Also, the cooldown timer should be less, but still, I use this all the time. Orbital Precision Strike, I already went over this one because I thought that it just wasn't in the buy menu because you start out with it. Orbital Gas Strike. I don't understand, really, what this does that differently from a Napalm Strike. I understand that this might be better for the automatons, or that it might affect the automatons or the bugs better than the other, while the napalm will have the opposite effect. But I don't know. I just feel that isn't enough to make up for the fact that it causes lingering damage like fire does, but then also too, the caustic damage doesn't stay around for as long as fire does. If anything, this should be able to kill things much faster than fire can. That's honestly what it should boil down to, is this thing will just dissolve everything in its path very quickly. Almost to the point that it's just like, it lands, it blows up, within a second, everything has collapsed, including the big guys. Because otherwise there's just no point. EMS Strike. I used this stratagem exactly one time. If the fact that I'm pretty sure we have an armor that negates the shocking... no, I think that's for the Tesla coil. There's just no reason this, it doesn't hurt them. It slows them down. It doesn't let me... It slows me down. If anything, I should be able to call this in every 15... For me to be able to even consider using this, I would need to have immunity to it, and I should be able to call this in, say, every 30 seconds. And maybe the stun will last half as long, or maybe even a quarter long. Yeah, honestly, being able to, it should last, like, the stun should only last a couple seconds. This field shouldn't fucking exist. I shouldn't be affected by the field. I should be able to call this down on a tank. The tank should be stunned for a few seconds, just long enough for me to sprint up to it, climb on top of it, and gun the fuck out of its weak spot. That is what I think that the type of strategy that this stratagem should be enabling. Orbital Smoke Strike. It's kind of cool. It has, the cooldown should be slightly lower, maybe 60 seconds. It should be saturating even more area than the Eagle Strike, given the fact that I can just keep calling in the Eagle Strike after it. The opportunity cost is just too high. This should be the entire area is now covered in smoke. I am now in a World War I trench. The area is very blocked. I have an opportunity to escape a large group of enemies. Good luck finding one enemy in a large cloud of smoke. That's how it should be, otherwise I never would consider this fucking thing. HMG emplacement. It's a good weapon. I should just... the timer needs to be less. The fact that it's inferior to the sentries because I have to be there, it should... I should be able to call this in faster than a sentry, and when I do, the other one blows up. Or when you leave this one, it'll turn itself into a mine, and then wait for something to come along and then blow up. There's just and it should be a big explosion too. I feel that you'd be able to fit a big explosion in the Hellbod, and because currently I never use this weapon. Even though it's pretty decent, it just has too many downsides, and it takes too long to call in when I have other options that will shoot for me and won't leave me stationary and vulnerable. Maybe I would up the fire rate too. Have it on par as having 2 heavy machine guns. Or just leave the fire rate as is and then make it as powerful as the anti-material rifle. Any of those are valid. All I can tell you is what it is right now ain't it though, Chief. Shield generator relay. I should be able to call in Hellpods and not have this thing get damaged. That's honestly the big thing that's holding it back. I think that it shouldn't go off of damage, it should go off of time. It should just hold for 20 seconds or something like that. I don't know. The cooldown time is actually pretty decent on it too. I just don't see that many people using it, and I know that I've seen it get destroyed plenty of time by people calling in Hellpods on it. I shouldn't be able to negate my friendly's Hellpod or my friendly's call in because I'm stupid and called in a Hellpod and destroyed his shield. That only note on it. Tesla Tower. I genuinely... only rage baiters bring the Tesla Tower. There's no... I genuinely don't know how you could make this weapon good without having it be frustrating. Maybe lower the cooldown time, and when it hits someone, when it hits a person, it only does like half damage. So or maybe 75% damage. So if you're already hurt, yeah, you're gonna die. If you're at full health, you have one warning to drop down on the floor. I just don't think that it should be you're being stupid and not paying attention. You go in, you run into it, immediate death. I just, for something that's supposed to be helping you and that has an opportunity cost with everything else, that's too much of a liability. That honestly is what my complaint with this thing is ultimately. It's more of a liability than a benefit on the field. Grenadier Battlement. Shit, I didn't mean to do that. Grenadier Battlement, I really don't... I should probably double check that I'm recording. Okay, good. And I've been doing this for a whole hour. My goodness. The Grenadier Battlement, honestly, it's not. I can't really complain about it too much. You get a grenade launcher. It gives you cover, stationary. Gives you decent cover. Maybe more variations that have different types of weapons, and less cooldown, because as is, even the cooldown's okay. I don't know. I think this might actually be one of the few things that is good where it's at, and the only thing I really have is the opportunity cost. It This needs to have more if the opportunity cost is going to be the fact that I'm picking this over, say, an actual grenade launcher. But that's also part of the reason why you only call it in 108 seconds. I don't know. This one, I'm going to need to do some more testing with this one, because as is, I think it's kind of okay. But I never see it. I never pick it. What would it take for me to use this? It would take, honestly, yeah, and just maybe call a faster cooldown time, slightly faster, 90 seconds, and maybe accompany it with a single, maybe it's dropped in by an eagle, I don't know, and you get a singular eagle strafing run along with it. I think, yeah, that sounds kind of badass. I would be open to trying it if that's what it was. An eagle swoops in, drops us into the ground like an airstrike. It deploys this, and as the eagle flies away, it also hits everything in front of it with an eagle strike. Or yeah, no, that's I would probably give it a shot if it did that, and it came in every 90 seconds. Sure. Anti-personal minefield. I hate this fucking thing. It's more of a liability in a lot of cases, especially with not every Helldiver is looking out for these mines. I can't tell you how many times I've seen our Helldivers get blown up by these. I think it's funny. I don't think that should be removed. But I think if anything, we should lean into that. If anything, we should lean into this being just an absolute fucking literal minefield and allowing you to call it in every, I don't know, 30 seconds or some, no. Yeah, no, 30 seconds, but the other minefield blows up. Or you can have a maximum of 2 of them, and if you try to place down a third one when you already have one active, the third one will just all detonate in a large explosion. Or it'll sort of turn itself into a cluster bomb, so the next thing that passes over it will detonate them all at once. And if you place down, say, an additional minefield or 2, then it'll just detonate on the spot, just so that way you're not spamming the area with minefields. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that we should up the chaos factor with this one. If you up the chaos factor with this, in fact, yeah, just up the chaos factor. Only note with that one. Supply pack. It's a great weapon. It's a great pack. I never use it. Part of the reason why I think that we should have backpacks be found randomly on the level, because otherwise I never pick it. Still helpful in a pinch. It would be like finding a resupply that you and your team can very quickly split between you guys. Yeah, if anything, lower the cooldown time just a little bit. Especially because compared to a regular resupply, this takes so much longer. And I'm pretty sure you could actually resupply this with a resupply, and then you can then resupply someone else with the resupply that you got from the resupply. But I don't know, the fact that it hinges on a resupply to then have the resupplies doesn't really make up for the fact that you would need to rely on that resupply. So I don't know. I would say lower the cooldown time. Maybe give you more. No. Yeah, no, just lower the cooldown time. And also have it show up randomly in levels. Grenade launcher. More... I want a slightly longer belt. Because, I mean, for crying out loud, they're only medium armor penetrating. I want this, with its current magazine size, as a heavy armor penetrating explosive. And then this one get bumped up to a larger magazine, because as is, it's outclassed by the stalwart in a lot of ways, and it just doesn't really, the fact that I can use it as an impact grenade doesn't make up for the fact that, aside from having a perfectly landed shot into a fabricator or for clearing bug breaches, this is inferior in a lot of ways to the stalwart. In fact, I would even make this expendable. I think that's what I would change. I think that's the one thing that I would say, if I couldn't add in, if I didn't want to mess with the ammo capacities or change the armor penetration values, I would just say make this expendable. I think that's my final answer. Just make it expendable. Laser cannon. Genuinely, I don't really have any complaints with this weapon. It's just very bland it's a very bland weapon to use, in my opinion. I think, if anything, it should also be expendable, and you only get the one heat sink. The one heat sink attached to it. You don't have an extra, maybe you'll get an extra heat sink, just like how with a medium machine gun, I think you should have one extra mag. Maybe two. No, one extra mag. Maybe with a laser cannon you don't get an extra mag because it, well, cools off. And if you run out, then you just have to call in a new one. Yeah. As is, the weapon's boring. The fact that I can reload it, that I just use it and stop using it, and then every once in a while I'll make a mistake and then have to reload it and put it back in. And it takes a really long time to kill even, say, Devastators. It's just a very boring weapon to me, as is. I think it should melt through the Devastators, but you should only have one magazine, and therefore you should have this cooldown time and make it expendable. Incendiary Mines. This has the combined problems of every single other weapon, every single other stratagem that I've complained about. It is more of a liability and a detriment to the team than it is a beneficial weapon when accounting for the opportunity cost for everything else. It sucks. But not because it... Sorry, I had to adjust my headset because my hairs were starting to fucking get in my face. It sucks, but it doesn't suck as a weapon. It just sucks in relation to opportunity cost and everything. Lower the only thing I would say, make it the same cooldown time as the anti-personal minefield when you lower it. When you lower this one to, say, 30 seconds, also do it for this one. Yeah, just a different flavor of the anti-personal minefield. Maybe with an added chance of causing a chain reaction. Yeah, honestly, a chain reaction. Just if a tank drives through and lands on these, the tank is now engulfed in flames. But we have anti-tank mines, though. So yeah, it would be more for infantry. It would just, if a group of enemies, even one person in a group of enemies detonates this, the whole thing just poof, flames everywhere. That's what I think this weapon should do. Guard Dog Rover. I don't really... I don't really have complaints about this one, honestly. I think it does a decent job of helping you. It acts as like a mobile sentry. It's... The only complaint I have is just mostly with laser rifles in general. It's just inferior compared to the actual guard dog. The machine gun Liberator guard dog. The laser just doesn't hold a candle to what the Liberator can do. So, if it were up to me, I'd probably just, I don't know, make it last longer, have the cooldown be shorter, have the damage be higher, something along those facts. I don't know. That's not really something that I use too often, so I can't really say too much. But as it is, yeah, it could definitely use a little bit of buffing in my opinion, because not very many people pick it, probably for a reason. Ballistic Shield Backpack, cooldown should be lower. I can drop it, if I get ragdolled, I have a chance of dropping this thing. That alone, the fact that I can forget it and leave it behind is enough that I should be able to call this in more often. Especially for the fact that it's only helpful if I have it directly in front of me and I could only use one-handed weapons with it. I want to be able to use this more often, but the downsides that it offers when compared to the opportunity cost of everything else, I just can't justify using this too often, especially in higher levels. It should be able to protect me from a lot of damage from the front. Maybe lower the durability since we're lowering the cooldown time. I would be okay with that. But as is, yeah, no. There's too many instances where I can lose it or it can get destroyed, and I'm out a ballistic shield for a while. Yeah. Arc thrower. I think that for low groups of enemies, it should be like a super shotgun. Like all of these enemies right here, it should have been able to very easily clear them all. And you could even clear a larger enemy. The fact that you could only fire one, and it should only be able to kill very small enemies. So if you try to arc a bunch of Devastators here, for example, it might take several Devastator shots, but it will hit all of them. And then they'll all die at the same time. So if you hit them once, dive away, start running, turn around, hit the Devastators again, do that again maybe one more time, all the Devastators fall. Like it should be able to clear a large group of enemies in front of you. But only if they're small, otherwise you have to hit it multiple times. Anti-tank mines, honestly, just lower the cooldown time, just like the other ones. I should be able to lay these down pretty frequently. Otherwise, there's no point in me using them when I have other options that are more proactive and better for being used in the moment. I should be able to call these in more often, especially because I can sometimes fuck up the placement. Quasar Cannon. This one I genuinely don't have. I think I genuinely don't know how I would change this. I think it's kind of fine where it's at. Maybe lower the cooldown time so you can call it in for your teammates if you wanted. But as is, there's no reason for you to call in another one. Yeah, no, I would say if you want to be able to call in 4 of these for your whole team, so your whole team has anti-tank capabilities, you should be able to do so in 8 minutes. Um, you should, yeah, within 10 minutes you should have your entire team sort of ready, I guess. That's the only thing I could, but then if any of them called it in, of course they're not going to fucking pick it, because pretty much everything else does what this thing does except have infinite ammo. This is a very economic weapon, which is part of the reason why I think you should be able to call it in so often. It shouldn't be expendable. It shouldn't be that you should be able to call it in every 1 minute. Maybe, yeah, I guess expendable. I guess it technically would have to be expendable if you're calling it in every 2 minutes, maybe, 3 minutes. Yeah, 3 minutes, I think. Because after 3 minutes, that's 6 minutes. So then after 12 minutes, you could theoretically have your entire team uh, loaded up with anti-tank weapons that take a long time to charge. Yeah, I consider this a very economic weapon. I already said that. So it should lean into that. And yeah, you should be able to call this in somewhat frequently to help your team if they literally have nothing else. Because the weapon kind of just fundamentally is subpar in a lot of ways to make up for the fact that you can fire it an infinite amount of times and just have it on your back. When you compare it to the EAT, it's all like in the amount of time that this takes to fire one shot. If I miss it, I should be able to fire, say, 2 or 3 shots, maybe. Maybe even give it the opportunity to, what's it called? To overheat, and the heat sink burns out, and that's why it's expendable. Because, as is, if I miss that first shot, I'm shit out of luck. And any situation that calls for this, the EAT would give me an extra shot. Or even the commando would give me an extra shot. And I wouldn't just have dead weight on my back for, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, long enough that usually another teammate will have to just take care of the problem for me. Yeah. Yeah, no, I should be... The only way I would ever pick this is if I was able to have multiple shots. And, yeah, then in that case I wouldn't care so much if the cooldown time wasn't changed. Just being able to, yeah, fire multiple shots, and if you burn out the heat coil, well, that's on you. That's the price you pay for having a infinite ammo weapon. You fry the heat sink, you gotta find a new one. Shield generator pack. There's honestly not too much to say about this one. It works really well. It does what it's meant to do. It does what it's meant to do. It saves your ass in a lot of situations. My only request would be that it protects you from melee weapons. No, that's what the ballistic shield does. Yeah, no. Maybe after a while, it burn. I pick it kind of often. Maybe after a while, the shield, just so that way it's more engaging of a stratagem to use. The shield generator itself can eventually burn out entirely, and you'd have to call in a new one, and the cooldown time would be lower. Yeah, I very much feel like that this sort of fits a niche of, say, like Rook from Rainbow Six Siege. I haven't played that game in a really long time, just so we're clear, but basically his whole deal is that he can drop down armor for not just him, but his whole team. I don't think you should be dropping down with 2 shield generators, or even 4, or let alone 4 shield generators, but you should be able to call one in every 2 minutes or something like that, because not only your shield burns out, but if you're careful with your shield, you would then be able to call in another shield for a teammate. Just since we're buffing everything, just give that one a little buff, make it more tactically interesting to be used and called in during game. Yeah, gas mines. Same deal with this. Basically encapsulates all the problems that I've had with all the other caustic weapons, as well as the fire weapons, as well as the mines, as well as the cooldown time. Lower the cooldown time, and I guess it just is another flavor of damage when compared to fire. It should just drop them almost instantaneously. Um, there's just only so many differences you can make between fire and acid before you start becoming redundant, especially when it pretty much uses the exact same applications as and the same applications, and what's the word that I'm looking for here? Um, Applications and the ways that that it's deployed, basically. The ways that it's deployed. I'm trying to think of, there's a very buzzwordy word for it, but yeah, just, it's redundant, and that's fine. That's cool. There's no problem with that. Just lower cooldown time and being able to kill things faster than fire. Otherwise, what's the point of using this over fire? Machine gun sentry. I genuinely don't think that it's in a good spot. No notes. Maybe since we're buffing everything, have me be able to call it in significantly faster. 60 seconds, every 60 seconds, maybe. Um, yeah. Gatling Century. I personally never pick it because it's pretty much 120, minute 20 for 81 seconds, so then that would be 2 minutes and 15 seconds compared to 1 minute and 20 seconds. Yeah, for almost, not quite, double the call-in time, you get significantly more firepower, but the magazine size is, I mean, it does have a bigger magazine size compared to the machine gun, but I do find it going down significantly quicker than a machine gun, still all the same. It's just, the machine gun's just a more economic choice overall. You get more bang for your stratagem. I would say that the Gatling Sentry should have the same call-in time as the machine gun Sentry. And, well, but then I would just be using the Gatling Sentry more than the machine gun Sentry. How would I balance this? Because the machine gun Sentry gets the job done. Like, if we're using this as baseline, maybe I would make it heavy armor penetrating. Yeah, just this one would be able to take on tanks. Then I could justify the longer cooldown, because then it would have more practical application compared to the machine gun Sentry. The machine gun Sentry you can call in. You should be able to call in very often, every minute. This one shouldn't take, 2 minutes 15 seconds. Fucking, when this one takes a minute 20. Or I guess in that case, if this one took a whole minute, this one, say, minute 20. Or excuse me, 2 minutes for 120 seconds. Because you could also take out tanks with it. Yeah, because a minute 30 would be too short. It would encroach too much on the territory of this compared to a minute 30, or even especially at 81 seconds, also known as a minute 21. Yeah, this one should be heavy armor penetrating. Mortar Sentry. I don't really have too much to say about this. I don't personally use it that often. just because it's sort of, you plop it down, you forget about it. Sometimes it's a liability, not often. As long as everyone knows that it's down and you stay away from enemies, it's fine. No notes. Yeah. Yeah, stay away from enemies. You know, it's a very strategic weapon. You can tag people if you level it up. No notes. Maybe just since we're buffing everything, lower the cool. Once we buff everything, just lower the cooldown time. The fact that it's medium armor penetrating doesn't mean that it's a quote-unquote better choice than, say, the Gatling Sentry. But yeah, guard, no notes. Other than that, guard dog, I kind of already went over this one. It it goes there. Maybe the reload time could be a little faster, if anything. But when we compare it to the laser, it's I don't really have a problem with this one. All my problems were really with the laser guard dog. But if we buff that one, we're gonna kind of need to buff this one. So if we buff this one, yeah, just a faster reload. Maybe this one, you can't really have it do more damage. I mean, also too, it's saying that it's a Liberator assault rifle, but also the Liberator assault rifle was light armor penetrating. This one is medium armor penetrating, so it has a penetrator, right? Is that what we're kind of implying here? So, if that's the case, I don't know, man. It's kind of cool where it's at. I don't really have any complaints about it. Just if we're buffing everything, just make sure that it's fun to use. It definitely has some times where I feel that I'm all like, where's my rover? But the laser can't, maybe that's why I should be using the laser cannon. So in that case, yeah, just this one, honestly, no notes. Just let me call it in more often, so that way if I run out of ammo, you know, it's not like I'm wasting a backpack and have a wasted stratagem slot at the same time. I guess I could call in a resupply, but that seems a little selfish if I'm just doing it for myself when I have a whole team with me or something. I don't know. Just, I'd be able to give you a better answer if we did balance everything else. Then I'd have a much clearer picture once I saw how it scaled compared to the buff balance of everything else. Autocannon Sentry. Honestly, once again, one of those things with no notes. Kind of does what it says on the tin. Does it really well. If this one was heavy armor penetrate, yeah, if this one was medium armor penetrating, had the same time as, if this one was medium, if this one was, sorry, I've been talking for like an hour straight. If this one was heavy armor penetrating and took as long as the medium machine gun sentry, then the autocannon sentry should also take just as long. I would, for an anti-tank, yeah, no. I think this is where I would draw the line and have this one, maybe if this one took, no, yeah, if this one took a minute 20, sorry, yeah, because I forgot that I said that I could see this one being a minute 20. If that one was a minute 20, this one would also be a minute 20, and if that's the case, yeah, this one's anti-tank. It takes those out pretty well. Yeah, I guess maybe since it's only good for that tank, and then it's gonna be subpar at everything else. Maybe I would make the autocannon sentry the same cooldown time as a medium machine, or as the machine gun sentry, but then lower the ammo capacity. Cause thinking about it from the perspective of also that bullet is just sort of hovering on top of the barrel. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, that magazine, the autocannon looks like the autocannon that we have for ourselves that we can shoulder mount, where, let me grab it for reference. Also, I'm just realizing that the autocannon looks like a very oversized Luger. The action and the barrel and everything. It is a giant Luger. Bravo on you guys if that's what... Shit, I didn't mean to do that again. Yeah, so the autocannon. I mean, this looks like a scaled down version compared to the autocannon Sentry. So I guess if technically these are using the same rounds, no, these look significantly bigger. These bullets look way bigger, I think. Like, look at the size of those shells compared, the size of the gun compared to the Helldiver, and then you try and compare that to the size of, where did it go? To the size of this. Yeah, those shells are significantly smaller, I think. Yeah, the shells are way smaller. Not that matters nearly as much as game balance, but definitely having a little more variation than just saying, oh yeah, this is just the same amount of time as a Gatling Sentry because this just is able to deal with tanks better than the Gatling Sentry, when the Gatling Sentry is already just an upgrade to the machine gun Sentry. Yeah, these should be able to absolutely demolish a tank, and maybe even with explosive rounds. But as a result, it can only fire a few shots, and therefore you should be able to call this in like damn near as much as you can a machine gun Sentry. Honestly, yeah, that's how I would balance it, so that way it stays interesting and fun. You call in an autocannon, and then the machine, and just as often as a machine gun, but the autocannon only does a few shots and can take out tanks and explosives. Rocket Sentry, kind of the same deal when you're comparing it in terms of explosives. If the autocannon is to machine gun, or excuse me, if the machine gun is to Gatling, like the auto is to rocket, then the autocannon is to machine gun, like the rocket is to Gatling, meaning that this one will be able to deal more explosive damage than this one and deal with crowds better, and it will take longer to call in, say 2 minutes, but it would be able to have more middle ground where it has a higher magazine capacity than the autocannon. It would kind of be like an inverse between the machine gun and the Gatling, where the Gatling lasts technically longer, the Gatling as it is technically lasts shorter than the machine gun, even though it fires more, because the machine gun doesn't fire as fast, whereas the autocannon just fires really powerful rounds to begin with, so this one fires weaker rounds, but more often. So that way it's kind of like, it's not like these 4 weapons, these 4 sentries, technically I guess 5, but these 4 sentries just sort of all do their own thing in that sort of way, and they're all distinct in that way. And I don't know, maybe this one will have say, the rocket sentry will be the one that takes the longest. Maybe just leave it as is, and yeah, honestly, maybe up the fire rate just a little bit, so that way it's not using the exact same cadence as the autocannon. Like, it'd be cool if this one fired, like, a bunch of rockets at once. Just, instead of boom, 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 it was like boom, 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 I guess. It'd be more akin to, like, the grenade launcher. That's kind of what I'm going for. That's what I think would sound cool. EMS mortar strike, same deal, same problems as the EMS. Where did it go? Same deal as the... Trying to find it. Here we go. Orbital. No? Wait, did I pass over it? Anyway, yeah, same deal as the EMS orbital strike. You just... I know that I'm just passing over it. Here we go. Yeah, I was passing over it the whole time. I thought I was looking for EMS here when the EMS is here. Yeah, so same problem as the orbital EMS strike. It's not this. The fact that the field lingers means that I can't actually close in. It's just halting the enemy, which I guess for a mortar makes more sense. So if it were up to me, I would make it so you could just non-stop call these in. Maybe with the fact that we're buffing everything else, maybe lower this down to 2 minutes. Keep the field. Maybe lower the fire rate compared to the actual mortar. That or remove the lingering field and have it fire more or less at the same rate. I don't know. I don't have enough experience with this to say definitively what its problem may or may not be. It might honestly be fine where it is, and it's just the opportunity cost isn't great compared to everything else. But yeah, I never see people use it. I don't use it. I think a lot of the factor of that is that the EMS... If anything, the EMS shouldn't affect Helldivers. That should be like the one thing that we as Helldivers aren't affected by. But everything else will be. Because as is, if you try to use this offensively, you get stunned too. That's not fun. It just negates the fun of it entirely once you run into that field to try and clear everyone out. Yeah, I think the big problem with it is the field. And the fact that, well, the field combined with the fact that Helldivers can get stunned too. Patriot exosuits. I once heard you guys say that you don't have these vehicles, that you only allow so many of these vehicles in because they're very taxing on the, they're very taxing for the system, so you can only have a handful of them at a time. So I feel like there should be some sort of scorched earth policy when it comes to these weapons, so that way they don't fall in the hands of enemies. If this blows up, or if you call in another exosuit, the old one blows up, I also feel that you should be able to hold down the exit key to set a walk forward, charge up for 5 seconds, and then detonate once you know you're no longer using the exosuit. Once you're done with the exosuit, you walk it into the enemy, you hold down the exit key for even longer, and then that primes this to just keep walking forward. Your Helldiver jumps out, it just keeps walking forward, and then blows up once it gets near the enemies. And being able to call it in more often, and when you do call in another one, this one blows up. Also too, just a suggestion, when the Pelican drops in to pick up your teammates, these, along with the recon vehicles and any other equipment, should just detonate. Anything left behind, scorched earth, that you just, as you run away, you see them all blow, or as the Pelican lands, or maybe once the first person enters, or the last person enters, everything on the field just sort of blows up, so that way the enemy can't use it, and we don't leave anything behind. At least within the area, or at least as far as vehicles are concerned. Actual weapons, maybe technically those can be, quote, left behind, so that way Helldivers can find more random weapons more often. You know what I mean? Just anyway, I'm getting on a side tangent here. I've been talking for a very long time at this point. We're just gonna go through here. Sterilizer, same deal. More range, same deal as a flamethrower, just more range. Um, Honestly, it's kind of not bad how it is. I just never used it. I actually none of these weapons. I actually don't think I technically have any right whatsoever to comment on these because I've never fucking used them. I'm just sort of talking at this point just based on pure speculation. I've never used them because it looks like that it's not leaving behind a caustic thing, so it looks like that this is a step up from a flamethrower. So yeah, I think, you know what, for the amount of time that I've been talking and the fact that we have gone through all of these, I'm going to leave it at that. I hope that I've made some semblance of sense to you guys, and if you guys kind of agree with me and think that what I'm saying here makes sense, and I get some positive reception on this, I will make a part 2. I've been talking long enough. So yeah, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good rest of your night.